Good evening, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives. And boy, oh boy, do I have an exciting night for you. I have Kenneth Mejia, the special election candidate, 34th Congressional District for California for the Green Party. The guy was a strong Bernie supporter during the primaries. The guy was just an all-star. He is now running, has a second opportunity at life. I'm so excited to bring Kenneth on. Kenneth, welcome, sir, to Real Progressives. How are you tonight?
Good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so excited about this. Do me a favor, man. You have a special place in our movement right now. We have been looking for something to get jacked up about, and damn it, if you're not giving us something to get jacked up about. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got here, man.
Right. So, my name is Kenneth Mejia. I'm actually 26 years old. I ran for this same exact seat last year when I was 25 in the Democratic primary because I was inspired not only by Bernie Sanders, but he made me realize that there's so much suffering that I always saw every day. And I know I couldn't just keep turning a blind eye to it. And I knew that all the food that I've been giving them, the clothing, and there needed to be more than that. So I got involved and I said, maybe I should do more on the policy side. So that's why I sort of ran for Congress last year, and I'm running again because, I think it's time to fight back. And literally we did that with the Democrats, and they sort of screwed over Bernie Sanders. And that's sort of why I left the party. And there was really no reconciliation. The Democratic Party still thinks they're okay and nothing went wrong. And so I joined the Green Party. And luckily, just last month, they announced a special election, and our Congressman Javier Becerra is going to be the new Attorney General. So he's gone. So right now there's a crowded race of like 28 candidates, and like 26 of them are Democrats, and there's one Green, which is me. So it's an open election. It's going to be a very good election because people can vote for any candidate they want.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we have a really good chance here. It's the only congressional race, and we really think it's time to bring power back to the people. And this is that race. I feel like we could do it.
Well, okay, so I've seen some pictures. I'm not going to lie, man. I've seen some pictures of you with the bullhorn in your hand. I've seen you out there in the streets taking it, being real. Talk to me a little bit about what it is that you stand for in this. I mean, obviously, you come complete with the Bernie Sanders package. I mean, tell us a little bit about who you are as a human being and what it is that motivates you, my friend.
Right. So, I mean, me as a person, I grew up in Silmar, which is about like in LA County. I was raised by a single mother who immigrated from the Philippines, and she took care of me and my three siblings. And she instilled education and hard work, just being a single mom. And she was also a nurse. So she took care of us. And with that dedication and hard work ethic, I graduated college in 2.5 years in a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting. And I was 20 years old. And with that, I became a certified public accountant so I could practice public accounting in the state of California when I was 22. And I was an external auditor auditing Fortune 500 companies, making sure their books were correct and whatnot for 3 years. And then since then, I worked in the private sector in the financial service industry. And then I quit my job to run for Congress last year as a write-in candidate. And I only campaigned for 2 months and I actually received 1,177 write-in votes. So people actually had to remember my name and all that. So we thought we did pretty good in the past 6 months since we started this. And we've gotten over 17,000 followers on Facebook, and we have hundreds and hundreds of supporters helping us right now actively in the campaign. So that's sort of, who I am. I'm really fighting for, just people like my mom, single mothers, the undocumented community, people of color who are dealing with, whether it be through the police or through some sort of racism. I'm fighting for our elders who are scared about losing Social Security or Medicare. I'm fighting for students, especially the youth. Like I'm a youth member, and being 26, talking to my friends, they're in debt, and there's really no way out, and they can't even find jobs. So that's sort of who I am, what I'm fighting for. Yeah.
All right, man. So guess what? I told you, I warned you offline. What was the here, so that they know, what was the thing I warned you was going to come up offline?
Yeah. Modern monetary theory. Right.
Absolutely. So just to put that to bed, Kenneth is a believer. He even knew who Stephanie Kelton was before we came on. I would just go, bravo. That's a big deal to me. I think that it's really awesome to know that, we've got some people out there that understand how important it is to be able to change the world. You've got to be able to fund the revolution. It's not just good enough to have ideas. You've got to know how to get them done. And dude, you're on their way if you understand that, man. You are way up there, buddy. Way up there, man.
Right.
That's awesome. So tell me what's driving California, man. Tell me you've got an awful lot going on in California, and in your district in particular. What makes you uniquely qualified to tackle the problems within your district?
Right. So, I mean, like in our district, there's so many issues, especially, this is basically the heart of Los Angeles, which is District 34. And so there's an array of issues that we need to address, whether it's poverty. 1 out of every 5 families live in poverty. A household of 3 makes less than $24,000 here. We have issues like displacement and gentrification, where you have developers coming in and they're building these new condos or new apartment complexes and retail spaces that are just kicking people out of the community, and they've lived there their whole entire lives. We have the issues of homelessness, we're the second largest homeless population in America after New York. So those are, big issues. And especially since we're a diverse community, we have the threat of Trump and his deportation policy. So that's also scary. And so those are some of the big issues. And I think what we bring is something unique that no one has ever done before. First of all, if you look at the race, there's 28 candidates and they're all Democrats except me. I'm a Green. So number one, I'm an outsider by political party. And I think people are sick of it, which is what we've seen in LA talking to voters. Number two, another, I think, great thing is, we're young. I'm 26. Our team is full of high school students, college students, all the way up to elders, people working 9 to 5. So it's very diverse. We're receiving no money at all from corporations or any big bucks. We've only raised like $10,000 in 2 months, while the Democratic side has raised over like $1 million. And so this is a really David versus Goliath type of thing. And thirdly, what we're bringing to the table are these new ideas. We're bringing forth a vision that we want to see for the direction of where our country is going, that we haven't been seeing brought by the Democrats or Republicans. And one of the big things, like you said, which we weren't going to talk about, but MMT is a big thing that no one really discusses in politics. So I would say those are sort of our advantages and what we bring to the table. Like we want to cancel student debt, for example. We want to provide single payer as a right. None of the parties want to do that wholeheartedly. We want to take money out of politics. It's just many things that we're doing that what you don't see from typical career politicians. So
dude, you are my kind of guy, man. I will support you through and through. You have said everything that I got chills right now, just so you know. I don't get chills very often. You just gave me chills. So tell me, what is your polling numbers look like? I mean, have you guys got any kind of intel as to what people are saying about you, where you fit in the mix?
Yeah, there's been no polls. There's been one paid by a consulting firm, but I don't know if you rely on consulting firms. That one said we're like second place. So, and then sorry, second to last. And I was like, all right, well, obviously this is biased because they talk about your party, and LA is a huge Democratic stronghold. So, and no one knows it. This was done like in the first 3 weeks the first month. So, yeah.
So, all right. Let me ask you a question, because this is a great time to ask. We got people wondering, we've seen so much, even if it's not verifiable fraud, there is enough of appearance of evil, if you will, in the way that the voting has gone throughout the Democratic primary. And then, quite frankly, there was enough questions. Now, I think a lot of this is, covering up for Hillary's terrible candidacy. But
right.
There was enough issues throughout that time even that Jill even felt the need to go out there and do recounts. What is it that you stand for as it comes to the way we count our ballots, to fair elections and funding election stuff? Talk to me a little bit about electoral reform, if you don't mind. Electoral reform. Yeah.
Right. Electoral reform is huge. the way the current system is, it's there to shut out third parties or any sort of real grassroots growth, unless you're like an independent or something. But, in terms of electoral reform, part of our platform is we want to push ranked choice voting. We think that would sort of alleviate that lesser of two evil voting, scaring tactics that we've been getting. Maine did it. There's counties in California that have done it, like Alameda. I think we sort of need to be doing ranked choice voting. I honestly do think we need to have proportional representation throughout the United States, which which would give third parties a chance. Even if we got 5% of the vote, we'd still have a seat, which is what we sort of see in other places, like in Europe, or we see it in cities in Illinois where they actually have a proportional representation system so that everyone has a seat at the table, not just Democrats and Republicans. I'd also say that voting needs to be paper-based and hand-counted, and it needs to be seen by people independent of Democrats and Republicans. Who knows, maybe, I know the United Nations, they have election monitors, so maybe they could counter them hand-counted ballots, and I don't care if it takes 2 months, as long as it's legit and paper. I think paper is the way to go. I also think we should have national holidays on election days. I think that'd be awesome. And automatic voter registration. What else is there for electoral reform? Getting money out of politics is a big one. Banning all corporate lobbyists just from influencing legislators, because they're the ones who basically write our laws. And when it comes to campaigning, have public campaign financing, because it's hard. Like, look at me, I only raised $10,000 and I'm against someone who's raised over $500,000. So I'd also say open elections is a big one. So luckily this is an open election, and then open debates. And I'm actually also interested in lowering the voting age too. So I think that would be...
I'm with you, but talk to me about that for a minute, right? I mean, what is it that you're seeing that would make, because quite frankly, there's a knock on millennials. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying there is a knock on them that says, millennials get excited, but then they don't show up to vote. Now, what do you think? I'm okay with opening it up to the youth, because I would love for kids, when they're sitting there in high school learning about civics, to actually partake in real time as opposed to some future time. So I'm with you. But talk to me about that. Where did that come from?
Well, it's actually, the Green Party actually sort of talks about it as well, exploring lowering the voting age. And in certain countries, they also are talking about it too. And, there's a lot of skepticism. Of course, people are too young, but I feel like you said, we should empower our youth. And I feel like, especially what has happened now, since politics is in everyone's face right now, this is a great opportunity to be like, well, this is what happened. If you don't get involved in the political process, someone's going to make decisions for you, and you might end up with Hillary or Trump, and you might not like both of them. So we feel like this would be good to empower our youth, especially to have a say in their future. I mean, if they could drink poisoned water in Flint, Michigan, if they could watch their parents lose their homes or their jobs through bad trade deals, if they could see themselves not going to school because they can't go to it, then they should have a say in those policy decisions that sort of systemically create these negative situations for them. So I think this would sort of be a great way of empowering the youth. And although the turnout is low for millennials, I think this is sort of where we got to come up and engage our current, high school students and college students through civics and whatnot. And so, your mom doesn't have health insurance. Well, that's politics. You're losing your home. Well, that's politics. You're going to get deported. Well, that's politics. And I feel like if we sort of need to have that truth talk with these people. So that's sort of why I feel like we should, lower it. So
I love it. So let me talk to you. You're in a very, very diverse community. There are many things that are facing you guys, from environmental issues with water to everything from that to immigration in a big way. Talk to me a little bit about what your community, what the needs of your community are specifically regarding environmental racism. I see environmental racism being a very important thing. You spoke to it in Flint, Michigan. I believe that there's no way in the world that is not a direct show and tell of environmental racism. Do you see that in your area? Is that a concern, or is it purely a climate change driven phenomenon out there?
Well, in actually in Los Angeles, we're the most polluted city, I think, in the country. And what you see is, most the polluted areas are like sort of they get pushed towards the inner cities, and what you see are mostly like, the Latino population or the African American community, sort of in these areas where there is environmental negative impacts. Like, for example, in Boyle Heights or in some parts in LA, there is like factories or in industries right there. In Boyle Heights, there was the Exide battery plant that was giving out lead, and they actually just found this out recently, and they had to notify people within like a 1.8 mile radius of Boyle Heights, which is in our district, that there's lead contamination, and they had to get their children blood tested, and they found high levels of lead, and they're mostly Latino population. And it's sort of sad because something happened recently in Puerto Ranch, which is just sort of like a middle class, white community for the most part, and they got taken care of, pretty quickly. And the mayor visited them, but this one, the Exide battery plant in Boyle Heights, which is mostly lower income families and Latino, they weren't getting the care they need and not as fast enough. So right now we're actually trying to fight that and sort of expand the testing and the cleanup right now, because it's still long overdue. But I'd say the factories, where the freeways are, where all these plants are, whether it's oil or whatnot, it's sort of around the low income neighborhoods and mostly the Latino or African American population.
Okay. It's just such a calamity, because I think, to me personally, environmental racism is one of those things that is very rarely talked about. We don't really consider it because it just seems like we're so focused on just climate change and things like that, that when you look, you realize that the places that have the worst environmental issues are the places that, number one, the white flight and the flight of the businesses have really, really wreaked havoc, and they've left the poor people there, and they've left the entire infrastructure completely go dilapidated, and these people are living in squalor. It's horrible. It's like you watch, think pictures of Syria and these bombed zones, and you say, wow, it's Detroit, no, it's Compton, right, or no, it's whatever,
Right.
So in reading up on your page, one of the things that I really was drawn to, aside from the fact that you were a Bernie guy, but the idea here that your focus is on income inequality. And I think that's obviously, it's a huge deal. We may differ on how we get there, but I want to talk to me a little bit about that, because that's a very, very important subject that everybody in America needs to pay attention. Everybody in the world needs to pay attention to, but everybody in America in particular that is getting slapped around by neoliberalism. Talk to me
Right.
a little bit about your solutions and your ideas for income inequality. You're in the state of California. Talk to me.
Right. So especially here in California and specifically in Los Angeles, like I said, I think our poverty, the amount of people we have in poverty is actually more than the United States. Like I said, 1 out of every 5 people live in poverty here, and the average median income for a household of 3 is actually $38,000, while you have rent in LA ranging from $2,000 to $4,000, and the median average rent is like $3,700. So it's absurd. Like, you can't afford anything. You sort of can't, catch a break. And that's sort of where income inequality comes in. And that's sort of what drew me to Bernie, because I saw those people growing up. And I feel like if we could solve income inequality, we could sort of solve a lot of issues like crime or poverty, or just, having food on the table, something simple like that. Because right now, even that's tough to get. So I think what we want to bring to the table is we want a visionary economy, sort of what we're pushing, that sort of, brings power back to the people and puts people on a level playing field, because as we've seen over the past 40 years, all income has been going to the top, and it sort of just stays there. So some of the platform points on that we want to address is, unemployment in our district's 8%, so which is higher than the national unemployment rate, and we want to do like a job guarantee program. And if you listen to Elton, she wants to, we could finance that through a modern monetary policy approach. So I want to do a job guarantee program, which would be a big one. We want to also do the $15 minimum wage is another as well. We also want to, make sure that we protect our unions and they have the right to unionize, because they're sort of getting screwed over, especially what's going on with Trump. One big thing we also want to put as part of our visionary economy is 30-hour work weeks. I think that's something that should be definitely looked into. In Europe, there are some countries that are experimenting with that, and some U.S. companies are actually looking into that as well. Because, if you're in LA or the United States, you leave work at like 7 a.m. and you leave home at 7 a.m. and you get to work at 9 a.m. because traffic is crazy. You leave at 5, you get home by 7, you lose the day already. So we feel like we should shorten the work there is something that should at least be looking into. So those are just some like big things we want to do in terms of the economy and sort of making it work for people. Another big one that we want to look into is also, not just the job guarantee program, but also looking into a guaranteed basic income as well. So.
Yeah, you know what? We are a fan. We here at Real Progressives are a huge fan of, something we call the JIG, or the basic income job guarantee combo, for a host of reasons. But let me just ask you this. I know how hard it is to learn the things that I've learned, and keeping on top of current events, even in your local community, that's really hard. And you're expected as a candidate to be all things to all people. You're trying your best to represent your community. Tell me, how do you prepare? Because, we're not all born knowing everything about engineering, the math, the economics, to, whatever. How are you getting prepared? How is your team working with you to make sure that you're able to stand and deliver? And because you've got to have 28 other people, or 27 other people anyway, that are going to be actively fighting. And you're going to have a mark on you, brother, because you are the difference maker. You are the difference maker. They're all deaf. You are the green. What are you going to do? How are you going to be ready for that? I'm eager to hear, because I want to support you in any way I can. And man, oh man, I'll do whatever I can. Let me know.
Right. So right now, our team, we have like a huge team of volunteers. Over close to 500 people have signed up to volunteer. So in our core team, we probably have like maybe 10 to 15 people, and no one's paid. We have no paid staff. We have no consultants. We're just like, when people say, "Oh, you're a candidate, you must be really special or something," I'm like, no, I'm 26. I'm literally working 9 to 5. I'm literally still at my office, like trying to sneak away to do this interview. I'm nothing really different between you and I. And I think that's what we have. And a lot of these other candidates, they're sort of doing the typical campaigning route. They're hiring people. They're doing all these big fundraisers, and we're not. We're out there in the community. We're knocking on doors. We're knocking on like thousands of doors every week. We're making phone calls, and we're getting small donations of $26. And our platform is actually created by the community. We're not experts. We're not policy experts, and I don't expect either of the other candidates to be policy experts. They probably hired someone to write their platform. But this is community based. This is futuristic, and this is what we want. And this is sort of what we see in other countries, and we sort of see it here, and it's capable. But a lot of people don't know that. So this is really a community-driven people's campaign, and there's really nothing to it. And I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of our volunteers. And I want to say thank you to our volunteers, especially in the East Side Greens, the Central LA Greens, the Northeast LA, and the West Side. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Seriously, this is what it's all about. Do you remember back when the bird landed on Bernie Sanders' podium? Do you remember that? This to me, helping you in any way, shape, or form helps that bird find a home, in my opinion. I mean, that's what we're looking at here, man. That's like big stuff. I'm serious. I sat there, full disclosure, I'm one of those guys that has no problem letting the tears flow. And I sat there when Bernie Sanders spoke at Liberty University. It's my favorite moment of the entire campaign.
Wow.
And he spoke in front of everybody that we claim to hate. All the hate, the friggin' Falwells, everybody that voted for Donald Trump, you name it. They were there, and he walked in there with nothing but respect. Nothing but respect. None of the nonsense that you see today, nothing but respect. And he spoke to them as human beings, and he said, listen, we may disagree on these things, but I'm fighting for you too. And I mean, I'm telling you right now, I just sat there, I was like, I got to hide my eyes so I can get off a good cry real quick. I mean, it was like that kind of stuff throughout the campaign that made me work around the clock. It sounds to me like you got a little bit of that flavor going on for you, man. I'm serious. It's a big deal.
Thank you.
Talk to me about the flavor. Talk to me about the way you're being supported, man, because it sounds to me like you got that special something.
Right. I mean, Bernie definitely got me involved in the political process, but it's always been something growing up, with a single mother and seeing my friends, like if they had trouble paying for their tuition or just finding a place to eat, or just going around LA and seeing people live on the roads or it was always something that bothered me. And I always, ask my mom, like, hey, can I have some money to give to this person? He's like, okay. So it was always something that I felt like you always had to be compassionate. And I feel personally, if you can do anything with compassion, whether you're working an accounting job, you're a filmmaker, or you're a politician, if you sort of lead with compassion, you can sort of get anything done, even if people are against you, because you're fighting for them at the end of the day. And one day they'll see that, hopefully. So it's really, I'm just compelled to help people, and I hate seeing people suffer, especially through policy making decisions by people when we're clearly capable of fixing these situations. So.
Amen. So I want to talk to you a little bit, and you know what? I don't mind if you disagree with me here. In fact, I encourage you to have a discourse. There's no judgment here on this, okay? But what I've talked about at length is the viability of a Green New Deal, or for that matter, Bernie's plans, are all highly dependent on getting people to feel the momentum, get the momentum going, and then be able to win some people from the other side of the aisle, because we don't have the numbers right now to win these things without appealing across the aisle. So most of the people on our team are super far left. Very, very, I think progressive might even be weak for what some of us are. But we're definitely
everywhere now.
we're definitely progressives here. But the idea here is that whenever you induce as an MMTer at the federal level, you have a different perspective than being an MMTer at the state level. Because when you're a state representative, when you're dealing with your state's issues, as opposed to the national picture, states are revenue constrained to the taxes they bring in and bonds and all the other things that they use to fund their operations. Encumbered federal grants and tax dollars coming in, not tax dollars coming in from federal government, but federal public money coming in for specific programs and such. At the state level, you have a very different set of constraints. But my thoughts are this. I know I used to be a Republican. I was a Republican for a very, very long time. In fact, my background, if you looked at all the years of my life, most of it was as a Republican. And I know that I would say 75% of Republicans are not much different than many of us. What they have is a difference of opinion. They believe in this work ethic, this Calvinistic work ethic that kind of comes from their church, that comes from different things. And the concern that they have is they don't want to enable bad behavior. They don't think about it through it's not like their motives are horrible. It's just that they have a different set of priorities. So as you think about the value of MMT in making these kinds of Green New Deals and the income inequality solutions you're seeking and so forth, the thing that makes them appealing to Republicans is that it's not a one-for-one. We don't have to tax to equal out that. So you can shed away some of the bullshit that you'll get from Republicans and get these things passed. And then later on, after we've got single-payer health care, after we fix the environment so our kids have a planet to live on, well, they'll have a planet that just won't be inhabitable. After we get these things taken care of, then we can go after the rich and do it. Because if we solve for income inequality with the job guarantee you put out there, that right there is a huge lift. That is the biggest lift of them all, because no longer can businesses whip their employees with the threat of being completely destitute if they fire them. So my thought is this, and I know we've talked about it, I know that your stance is slightly different. My stance is I don't think we can win a dual battle for each of the issues. We're going to be stuck just getting one little thing done, if that, if we go for issue of get the program and then jack up taxes. People sit there and say, Steve's not for taxes. I'm like, liar. I am for taxes. I'm just for people having Medicare for all first. Talk to me a little bit about your strategy. I know that you want to raise taxes heavily. That's your platform. I'm not against that. I just see them as two separate operations. Talk to me a little bit about your approach.
Well, I wouldn't say raise heavily. Raise heavily.
Well, you know
taxes,
what I mean. I'm
say.
sorry. Yeah.
I would say, there's a specific group that we would tax, and there would be, the top 2% of American households, and I believe it's those who make over $250,000. And I don't think a lot of us make $250,000. But that coupled with, as well, through the Federal Reserve, as you know, since Congress has the power of the purse. So it was sort of, and speaking of Republicans, and I know many who actually like Bernie. Like I'm from, like a lot of my family members are Republican. But they liked Bernie because he sort of affirmed what everyone knew, which was politicians are corrupt. He knew that, and people like my family and other Republican friends, they knew that too. And I think that's why a lot of people, they sort of connect with Bernie, because they're seeing all this money get jacked up to the top, and those people at the top are lobbying Congress, and then they're the ones getting the huge tax breaks. And and I think one thing Republicans and sort of us on the way left can agree on is that these 1%ers are corrupt, and they're taking all this damn money and they're keeping it to themselves, and they're literally buying legislation that works for them. So that's sort of how I would reach across from it. We're not taxing everybody or heavily. It would just be, like the top 2% and above. So.
Absolutely. Okay. So talk to me, what was your first run like? I was trying to ramp up to this, but I'm curious, what was your first run was difficult? You were running against, someone heavily favored. Talk to me a little bit about what your first run is, how you came into being on the second run, so we can get I want everybody to know who you are, man, because I want to put the call out, man. I want to get you some help, brother.
Yeah, I mean, our campaign actually has gone like pretty viral since last year. And I think that's because a lot of people are feeling that burn and they want to continue it. So last year, I only campaigned for 2 months. I was a write-in candidate, campaign, and got close to 1,200 write-in votes. But we had many volunteers, and we were against, 2 people on the ballot, and you had to be top 2 to advance. So, it was a long shot. I even quit my job to run, and my mom was like, "You quit your job? What? And you're a write-in? What are you thinking?" And then I was like, Mom, these are things I just gotta do, because I felt it. I felt it in my heart. I felt it. And I was 25, so I'm like, all right, I have a CPA. Maybe I'll find another job, which I have that privilege of having. So I decided to do it for the people. And since then, I've just been dedicated on the issues, continuing to help the community. We're out there in Skid Row every month, giving meals to the homeless, doing community cleanups, and doing marches and rallies to raise issues. And that sort of continued on to where we are now. And I think this is a very unique situation that we're in, because this is the only congressional race in the country right now. So people really want to make history. We don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. If you're for the people, then we're with you, because we're really for the people, and we're sort of sick of this 2-party system that doesn't care for any of us. So like this is a very unique opportunity, and I'm proud to represent the Green Party and sort of give people that new option. Because if there's any place that can make a revolution happen, especially a progressive one, it's here in LA. So.
Amen. So I want to talk to you a little bit. I don't know if you've heard of this group, but we support an umbrella group. They're not a party per se. They're looking to be like a tribal council of the left, if you will. And Erikel Bloss is the leader, or she is the starter of the Progressive Independent Party, and we co-sponsored the Occupy inauguration. And I've been hearing about you throughout that time. Everybody was like, "You got to interview this guy. You got to talk to him." But this particular movement, it's really kind of interesting to watch all the different factions, because quite frankly, we've got a lot of, hey, I'm the People's Front of Judea, and hey, I'm the Judean People's Front, so we can't be together. But the reality is, if we're that splintered, it's not even like peeing into the ocean, man. I mean, we aren't going to make any splash. We got to unite. We've got to find a way to unite, and not fake unite like some of the people on the corporate Democrat side that just want us to let bygones be bygones and go ahead and start supporting neoliberal Wall Street trash. So talk to me about your perspective on coalition building, because it sounds like you got a great perspective on that. I just want to hear your thoughts on that, because you got groups like the Justice Democrats, who I'm leery of, just straight up I'm leery of, and you've got other folks that I'm leery of because I think they're co-opting a message, and I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because I want to be successful. But so far, my indications are it seems like pop culture version of revolution, not real revolution. And we need a real revolution to solve the problems we have. Talk to me about coalition building.
Right. Especially for our campaign, we actually have people from the Party of Socialism and Liberation helping us. And we have other socialist third parties helping us too with our campaign. So we're actually doing this coalition building as we speak, because people are sick and tired of, Democrats and Republicans. And they are doing this because we unite on the issues, and they're supporting us, not because we're Green Party, but because what we're really fighting for cannot be tied down to any one donor or special interest. And we can't be tied down by our party, no matter what happens. So I actually met Erikel Bloss at the People Summit, and she's actually really cool, and definitely interested in PIP and whatnot. So I think we need to sort of unite on the issues, even progressive Democrats. Even if you're a progressive Dem, we have Democrats on our team helping us too. And I think it's because they sort of see what we're fighting for, and it's something revolutionary that nothing has ever done. So we unite on the issues, and we sort of march differently, and how to get to accomplishing those issues. So, and I think real people will recognize that.
I think that's great.
Yeah. And one thing is, like, when we talk about Democrats being, crappy people, corrupt people, we're talking about the party. We're not talking about people, personally, because I know a lot of people get in their feelings and they're like, "Oh my God, you're talking about," like, no, chill. We're not talking about you. Like, it's not about you. It's talking about your party. So that's also I want to say.
Yeah, no, the feels get in the way an awful lot with making good points. And it's like, listen, daggone it, the Democratic Party, they say what we want to hear, right? I mean, they do to a degree. They say what we want to hear. And then you look, and when Bernie was running, who was silent? Who's the one person you thought would be vocal supportive of his? Elizabeth Warren. I call her Elizabeth Drug Warren, because she mocks people for wanting to legalize marijuana. That makes her a zero starter for me. She couldn't get my vote if Hillary were running. That's how much I despise her now. But the reality is that the drug war in LA and throughout California was on steroids forever. Now, talk to me a little bit about what the situation is now that, you've got the culture changing in the country little by little with legalization taking over and so forth. What's it like in California, and what are you facing in particular in your community?
In terms of the drug culture or marijuana or whatnot?
Well, in terms of the legal struggle, in terms of the political climate as it pertains to your district.
Right. I mean, for California, they just passed the legalization of the use of marijuana recreationally. And so from what I've seen, because I'm always walking around on the street and whatnot, I don't see anything different. There's really nothing on the news that has changed dramatically. So it's like, it's anything, to me, it's like alcohol is now legal, so nothing crazy, nothing I've seen that's gone crazy.
Well, so okay, let me frame it slightly differently, because this is the big concern I have. The state of Pennsylvania just recently passed legislation to enable a version of medical marijuana. It's not terribly robust. It's not terribly exciting, and it's definitely not a people-driven thing. It's very, very fear-based. A lot of restrictions, a lot of concerns, and so forth. Fake concerns, because let's be real. I mean, you can buy a shot of tequila, which will wipe you out in a heartbeat. Whereas
Right.
I think the worst thing that'll ever happen is you'll eat too many Doritos if you smoke dubage. So the question I have is, what is law enforcement like out there? Because for years and years and years, you saw NWA and others talking about the drug war, and you see the Crips and the Bloods and all the other things. What is that like at this point, and how big of a concern is that to you as you trudge forward? Because let's be fair, it's part of pop culture, but it's also a part of real life in LA. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think they're actually in the city council, on the city level, they're trying to pass a bill called Measure M, that they're sort of how they're going to oversee the use of recreational marijuana right now. In terms of law enforcement dealing with that, I think it's especially something that we've seen over time, especially the LAPD. They're, if you know about the LAPD, this is the second year in a row where they actually have the most civilian police, deaths, and and it's mostly the Latino or African American community, and just for smoking a joint could get you in jail, or sort of mess up your future. So I feel like with this bill or whatnot, with the recreational use of it, I think that it's better, in my opinion, because people just want to smoke weed and chill, then so be it. But yeah, so I think that's sort of the concern, is that from what I've seen from the community members, mostly the elderly or the parents, which is valid. They don't want their kids doing that stuff or whatnot. But I think if we educate people on education, I think is key to answer a lot of qualms and fears. I think we could really tell them, like, hey, well, alcohol does this too. And, so that's sort of how I feel about the culture. Like, the younger generation is chill about it. And then the older generation is a little conservative on it. And then the law enforcement, they're just LAPD being LAPD. And, they still, in my opinion, they're not doing a good job, and they're still killing black and brown bodies, so we need to fix that.
Exactly. So talk to us a little bit about, you look at inequality, income inequality, and there are those of us who'd like to say that, it comes down to economics, and you put these people in self-perpetuating situations, man. Generational poverty comes as a direct result of many of the laws we've put on the books that actually serve as a funnel to create this permanent lower class. And it's a real crime, in my opinion. It may be the crime of the century. I mean, crime of everything. The most important crime is the way that they self-perpetuate these communities of misery. What is the tenor? I mean, what is the feeling like that, in your area, that, as far as, are people really struggling out there? Is there opportunity in your area? What can you do to make more opportunity in your area for people to climb out of that?
Right. It's definitely tough here in our district. Like I said, our levels are higher than the national averages when it comes to people in poverty, or a family of three where the household income is below the national median. How can you pay for a apartment $2,000 a month, and two of you, your parents, only make $37,000? That doesn't make sense. You're literally living in overcrowded places. You're under threat of eviction because the landlord just sold it off to another landlord and they want to kick you out and redevelop it. You know, and then there are people with no jobs, and there's students dropping out of high school. So it's very, very serious here in LA. And I think what we could do is sort of on that national level is not only bring the spotlight, but I feel like on some issues we give too much power to the state and local level, and they're sort of not doing their job, especially when it comes to housing, for example. The state and the local level, they have too much power over that. And I feel like, you know, the federal government should step in when it comes to seeing just things take a downturn. That's sort of what we're seeing. So hopefully, you know, a job guarantee program could give those, you know, that 8% of people who are unemployed in Los Angeles that chance to get up, you know, or that federal minimum wage of $15. Luckily, LA actually did approve that to go to 15. And something like single payer healthcare nationally could help people get out of poverty, because right now under Obamacare, you're paying like hundreds of dollars just on monthly premiums and higher deductibles. So I think those are some of the solutions we could bring through on a national level that could sort of uplift the people here locally. And I really think that's something we could do, and the people of LA do need help. So.
All right, so you know we've got about 10 minutes left here. I want to try and focus in on how you can get the word out to the people. What do you need, man? What do you need from us, your audience,
right,
et cetera, to really take off and put you where you need to be?
Right. So I think this is definitely the hardest thing is the volunteers. You know, although we have like 500 volunteers, we want more. You know, this is only one congressional race. Let's have 10,000 people volunteering for this campaign, because, you know, we could be keyboard warriors all we want on Facebook and rant, but nothing will change unless you actually get involved in the process. And so what I say is, you know, if you put 1 hour a day, it keeps your Facebook rants away. So if you get involved, what you could do is, if you're out of LA, out of state, you know, make phone calls, make 10 phone calls to 10 people and tell them about our campaign and why they should support us. You know, if you live in Los Angeles, come out and help us knock on doors. Like, we need the help. And if you can't do either, donate. We definitely need help donating funds, because like you said, you know, we're the lowest, you know, amount of money raised, $10,000 in 2 months, while other people have raised over $500,000. So this is really a people-driven campaign. There's nothing, and that's what makes this special. So the more you put in, it makes our chances greater of actually winning this thing. And it's actually pretty high. A lot of people in the area actually know us already. So we just sort of need that help. So get involved. I could give you the link later or whatnot. So
I'm gonna, as we finish this up, we are gonna put links at the top of the narrative. So whenever everybody shares this, and people, we need you sharing a lot.
Right.
But, you know, as we share this around, this would be great to get the word out. You know, we are an educational organization. Our goal is not to specifically support candidates directly, but you support the issues that we are pushing forward. And I think that that's a very important tie-in right there, because the people need to know that they're not just signing off on a young kid. That's nice, check. He's Latino, that's a check, blah, blah, blah. They're signing off on a full-blown man who has everything going for him. You're smart. You have the right heart. You have the right issues. You have the right everything. And right now we have the right opportunity to elevate you and put our time and our money where our mouth is. I think that's a great message, man. It's a great message. All right, so I'm going to give you one final thing. I'm going to let you go ahead and take us out of here, brother. What do you got left, man? What do you want to say to the people?
Yeah, I just want to say this is a historic opportunity that we have here. There's only one congressional race going on in 2017, and this is it. You know, I'm 26 years old, and I feel like it's time for a change. I'm in the Green Party. We want to bring power back to the people, and we want to do it unapologetically without getting destroyed by our own party or our donors. And I think that's what we have. That's something special here. And when people question our inexperience, oh, he's too young. You know, there's a reason why they made the House of Representatives minimum age 25 years old. But no one really knows that. The average age right now in Congress is 57. They made it 25 because anyone should have a chance to be a part of the political process. They wouldn't just put 25 for a reason, but they said that there should be an array, this sort of diversity in Congress when it comes to age, when it comes to experience, and sort of that's what we bring, And I think that people should realize if we get elected, I'm only one person out of 435 people in the House of Representatives. I don't make all the decisions, but I'll be there to make that force, And one thing that we're seeing candidates do is they're saying, I could do this. And it's like, no, you're not going to do that. Like, especially under a Trump presidency, you don't even have the majority. So this is that special opportunity to actually have someone in there who is an outsider, who's going through unconventional ways to sort of bring about change, which is what we haven't been seeing from the Democrats and Republican Party. So this is a very unique opportunity. We're carrying on Bernie Sanders' message. One thing I want to say is I'm not Bernie Sanders. I'm Kenneth Mejia, and I'm proud of it. And we make our own route. We make our own message, and what comes out from our heart and our hand, what comes out from our hands and my mouth, comes from the heart, and it comes from the community. So I think this is a really special moment, and I hope people could get involved because this could possibly be in the history books. And we'll say, oh, he had an interview with Stephen on Real Progressives, and it's on the history books. So boom, like our kids are reading it, and it's like, well, you guys are part of this movement. So it's not a campaign.
I want to have you back, man. I want to be able to have you back. When is the actual election? What is the day of the actual election?
Right. So the important dates are Tuesday, April 4th is the special election, and it is a open primary. So voters can vote for anybody they want, regardless of their party affiliation. And right. So, but early voting begins March 6th. So we have about less than a month to actually reach voters. So all the help we could get.
You got it, man. You got it. So Kenneth, with that, I'm going to thank you very much for spending your time with me tonight. It was a pleasure to meet you, my friend. I'm so excited, and I really do hope we can have you back soon.
Thank you, Steven.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Real Progressives.
Absolutely.
MMT.
Yay! I love it. MMT. All right, man. Have a good day, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.